All right, let's talk about Chris Jones here and the Kansas City Chiefs, who, I think his name was awfully quiet in the Super Bowl, which is usually not a good thing. Usually we're saying his name a lot during big playoff games. Granted, you look at his actual sack numbers in playoffs, they're actually shockingly low, but it's not because he typically plays poorly. It's usually due to him getting extra attention, and usually his advanced stats are pretty good, especially in big games. Here, though, you look at some advanced numbers. In the 24 pass rush snaps that he had in this game, he only had 2 pressures, which is a very low pressure rate, and you also have PFF grade of under 60, was a little better in pass rush than in run defense. We'll get into really his pass rush. I think run defense, whatever. The team stopped the run well, regardless of if you think he was a part of it or not. But let's go over here. The play you see on your screen, you're going to see a double team. And this is the first thing that you expect when it's Chris Jones, right? It's, hey, Eagles' offensive line is amazing. They also are going to put 2 guys on him, right? Here, that's what they do. They put multiple players on him. So trying to take Chris Jones out of the area, take him out of the play. You now get one-on-one matchups for everybody else, and this is what usually works for Kansas City. Watch, you see that Chris Jones actually kind of gets over and helps generate a pressure. He's not the one who actually makes any contact. There's a couple other Chiefs players, but this is, I think, the positive of a Chris Jones play, right? Even if he's not being the guy who gets pressure, he can be the guy who helps set things up by taking on a double team. And there was some of this. I don't want to sit here and say Chris Jones did nothing in the Super Bowl. This one is one of his pressures, and, not all pressures are created equally, right? Sometimes, I think TJ Watt is the king of having a 2-pressure game, but both pressures were on third downs, resulting in fumbles, This play, it's a 2nd and 10, one-on-one matchup. Watch as when it begins, you're going to see him just blow by Landon Dickerson. Generates a pressure. Unfortunately, and this was an issue that Jones had to deal with, you see how Hurts is still able to get the playoff. At the end of the day, if a first read is open and open quickly, it doesn't really matter how quickly you get there as a pass rusher. It just Hurts had a place to go. So, Jones got the pressure, but wasn't able to get there. Was still a great rep from him, though, right? But the reality is, heading over here, that just wasn't happening consistently. So, this play, what's going to happen is you have a double team, and Landon Dickerson didn't have a great rep here on that last one. Not going to have a great rep on this one either. He's the left guard. Watch him. Watch as he kind of, was a little slow in realizing who he should block and then just kind of falls backwards. It happens to the best of us, right? So that's one of those where you're happy your teammate was able to step it up and make sure he made the block, so that's not on highlight reels for years to come. But his teammate, Cam Jurgens, who, again, entered the game. We weren't 100% sure if he was going to play after the conference championship game, although we felt like he was going to. He had been dealing with an injury, but here he's able to really essentially block Chris Jones one-on-one. And when you have a center blocking Chris Jones one-on-one, okay, well, that'll be pretty good for you. I mean, a play like this, for example, on a 3rd and 11, they're trying to get Chris Jones involved. You saw that the Chiefs, who, Chris Jones not winning consistently, they're trying to see if they can just find a way to get him involved. That's what they're going to do on this play. Although this one's just early on. This isn't really, that's what happened later. But here, this is more of just something they do in general of trying to get Chris Jones matchups advantages. So you see how they have 5 players at the line. That's where Chris Jones is, lined up against the center, and with 5 players at the line and only 5 players blocking, you know that the center is going to be blocking Chris Jones one-on-one. You're trying to get Jurgens on Jones because that's just a matchup advantage because, it's hard for a center to block someone one-on-one. However, you see that it wasn't hard on this one. Cam Jurgens really wins that. And again, there's a couple things to note. There was a guard towards the left, Landon Dickerson again, who essentially wasn't blocking anybody since Nick Bolton was kind of playing a spy type role on that one. You also had the running back go to the, through the A gap in between the center and the right guards. So Jones couldn't fully go in one direction or the other. So there was definitely an advantage there for Jurgens, but still, he blocked Chris Jones one-on-one. And when you can get that going, the Kansas City pass rush is just nowhere near as dominant. There was something like this as well, where what's going to happen is it's going to be a one-on-one matchup again, this time against Mekhi Becton, who, again, calling him a weak link is not fair to him because he's been great this year, but given how good this Eagles offensive line is, he essentially is the weak link. So, okay, he's someone that Jones wants to attack, and this is what makes the Eagles offensive line so good is they don't feel like they have to double team Chris Jones on every play. And you don't want to double team Chris Jones on every play. I'll get to that later. There's strategic reasons why you can't. So they are going to just leave Mekhi Becton on Chris Jones one-on-one. And as you see here, Jalen Hurts is going to take the snap. And as of right here, it's just not working. One thing I meant to mention at the top of the video, I'll mention it now. Chris Jones did get banged up midway through the third quarter in this game. That's why if you notice, every clip I show is prior to that moment. Because at that point, I'm not going to, talk about him like if he's already banged up, because then maybe I don't know what he's dealing with. But here, this is in theory healthy unless there was an injury I didn't know about and no one knows about. You see right here, though, Mekhi Becton's just winning. And so then going over here, what they were, going to try and do is, okay, well, let's mix things up. This is still relatively early on in the game, but Spagnuolo isn't someone to be slow in making his adjustments. And again, quite frankly, he tries a bunch of different things early on in the first quarter and sees what sticks. Here, what's he going to try? Well, you see Chris Jones and the edge rusher on this play for the Chiefs. Chris Jones lined up as the interior defensive lineman. However, the player lined up as an edge rusher drops back into coverage. Jones is now going for the tackle, Jordan Mailata. So, again, this is something the Chiefs do. They'll try and have him work against tackles sometimes because there's just more space, and Chris Jones can be capable here as well. The issue is there's just no weak spot on this Eagles offensive line. At the end of the day, you don't need superstars at every position for an offensive line. The Eagles do have a couple superstars, but you don't need that. What you can't have is a weak spot, and there is no weak spot on this offensive line. You see that Mailata, again, doesn't really give up too much pressure. Once again, it helps that on a lot of these plays, you're seeing Hurts throw to open guys quickly. That was another issue, is they couldn't block or they couldn't cover long enough to allow the pass rush to get there. Everyone always thinks of it one way, of the quarterback needs time to throw, but it goes the other way too. The pass rush needs time to get to the quarterback as well, and they just didn't have that. Going over here, they tried this again, where it's now just on the opposite side of the field, but you see he's going to be going towards the against the left tackle once again, Jordan Mailata. Watch as when Hurts takes the snap, you see that right here, again, Mailata has completely covered this up. Now, I will mention, and again, there were little things like this throughout the game. Let's rewind. Let's go back over here. Let's talk about the formation again. You see how the Eagles are going to have 5 players blocking, and they're going to be double teaming Chris Jones. I mentioned earlier how you don't really want to double team Chris Jones on every play. Well, why is that? Well, it's because you can set things up. So you have Nick Bolton, who's going to be blitzing, and this kind of gives him a tell of the center could be going towards Chris Jones. Let me try and get around him if that's what he decides to do. So as you see, Chris Jones does get through. Because of this, there's pressure, and because of the pressure, it ends up getting intercepted. So there were still, again, Chris Jones had his fingerprints on the game, and kind of one of the nice things about having a star defensive lineman is even if they're not winning consistently, just the threat of them is still going to help you no matter what they're doing. But I also think it's fair to say, we did not see a dominant Chris Jones performance in this one, and I think it really comes down to just how good this Eagles offensive line is, right? I mean, when they have superstar players at the tackle position, really good players on the interior who might be superstars one day, it's going to be tough to get pressure. So hard to really blame Chris Jones given the matchup he was going up against. But that's what happened. That's what I saw. What did you see? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.